Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to the Ambassador Lecture, European Union Policies and Future Challenges. This Ambassador Lecture organized by European Union Delegation for Indonesia and Brunei Darussalam in collaboration with Hasanuddin University. First of all, I would like to greet His Excellency Dr. Vincent Piket as Ambassador of the European Union to Indonesia and Brunei Darussalam, Ms. Sanas Patel as a Program Manager, Sustainable Finance and Investment European Commission, and Mr. Demas Novarian as a European Union Policy and Outreach Partnership in Indonesia. And also I would like to greet Hasanuddin University Rector Professor Dr. Insinyur Jamaluddin Jompa MSc, the Secretary of Hasanuddin University Professor Insinyur Sumbangan Baja MPhil PhD, Mrs. Rafika Nurul Hamdani Ramli HH LLM from Faculty of Law, and official staff, guests, and students from Hasanuddin University. Ladies and gentlemen, without further, I would like to invite on Hasanuddin University Rector, Professor Dr. Insinyur Jamaluddin Jompa, MSc, to make a welcome remark speech. The floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good afternoon. Our guests, ladies and gentlemen, especially our honorable guest, our Ambassador of European Union, Dr. Vincent Piket, and delegates, Dr. Sahnas, and others, deans, vice rectors, students especially. It is our honor today to be able to be with the Ambassador of European Union to give us overview about Europe and around issue in Europe, and I think this is also a good opportunity for many of us who miss Europe. It is also good to refresh our mind who has been there before, and I mentioned to him also that European is one of our key area that we would like to expand our collaboration in the future. I just asked Dr. Vincent about what time his flight, and I just realized that he need to leave this room around 4 o'clock. But we will make sure that you must be able to arrive in the airport on time. My university, Hasanuddin University, it has been in the last year or so has been working very hard and with a big team, going overseas, expanding our collaboration and also interaction with so many other countries, including Europe. So today we are not going to discuss about detailed programs, including double degrees and corporate research project and also many other grants. But it is also, I think it's time to answer the question why we should go to Europe. Yeah. And I think European is one of our strategic partner countries because historically and also we had a long-term collaboration with many of these countries, including Netherlands, Germany, French, you name it. UK is not part of European Union now, so okay, forget about UK, but we focus on our vice rector was in Portuguese last time, so we are now really expanding our collaboration to Europe. So Ambassador, we do hope that you remember that UNHAS, although so many universities in Indonesia, but actually you should not miss UNHAS. The reason why we are the biggest university in East Indonesia, but yet we also among the top university in Indonesia, and specifically because UNHAS is situated in the eastern Indonesia, where many things a little bit lag behind. We lag behind in capacity of human resources, in economic, in social aspect, development, and so on and so forth. So this gap has been an issue in Indonesia in the last 35 years. Now it is our task, our job, big job for UNHAS to be able to contribute to reduce this gap. And of course, one of the strategic way is through developing, improving the quality of human resources, bringing more technology, science, technology, and innovation to East Indonesia so that we can build the nation, build the East Indonesian part of this nation to enable this nation to become one big Indonesia. It is not easy, of course, because we have 17,000 of islands in Indonesia. It is very challenging, but also this is a good opportunity for Indonesia to be developed. And I think a lot of partners from Europe actually are keen in collaborating with Indonesia. Every time I visited European, most of them are really keen in collaborating with us. It is just depending on the readiness of our university and our people and our area to be able to open and also extend the interaction. And I think today we are honored, we are happy, we are so lucky to have our ambassadors speaking. We'll give a public lecture, but also it is open for you, for everybody, to also ask questions later on, I think, and hopefully we can make this meeting fruitful. Without further ado, I'd like to thanks again for your visiting us, Ambassador, and also thanks for all the participants who coming today for this lecture. Sekian, wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good afternoon.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, now we have come to our main agenda. Is Ambassador lecture about European Union policies and future challenges. Before that, I would like to invite Mrs. Rafika Nurul Hamdani Ramli to join the stage. At the same time, she will be lead this Ambassador lecture. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good afternoon, everyone. Distinguished guests and participants, welcome to the Ambassador Lecture, European Union Policies and Future Challenges. I'm Rafika Nurul Hamdani Ramli, and I'm honored to be the moderator for our afternoon lecture. Before I introduce the Ambassador of the European Union to Indonesia and Brunei Darussalam, also present today, we are honored to have Erasmus alumni who joining us. They received Erasmus scholarships funded by the European Union. Could you please stand up when I call your name? Dr. Nita Rukminasari. Erasmus alumni, Erasmus Staff Actions in 2013 and 2014 in Belgium and Sweden. She's also a lecturer at the Faculty of Marine Science and Fisheries of Hasanuddin University. And the next is Miss Andi Reski Savitri, new Erasmus awardee 2023. She will undertake Erasmus Mundus Master in Psychology of Global Mobility, Inclusion and Diversity in Society in Poland and Ireland. The next is Miss Nuriyanti Pangloli, new Erasmus awardee 2023. Ms. Yanti, she will undertake Erasmus International Master of Science in Health Management in Aquaculture in Belgium, Norway, and the Netherlands. Also presents Erasmus alumni, a lecturer of Universitas Fajar Makassar, Ms. Amy Sri Reskia, Erasmus Alumni 2018-2020. She studied master's degree in master's program in Euroculture, Society, Politics and Culture in a Global Context in Germany, Poland, and the Czech Republic. Please give applause to our alumni. Now it's the time to introduce Dr. Vincent Piket, Ambassador of the European Union to Indonesia and Brunei Darussalam. So Ambassador Piket started as the Ambassador of the European Union to Indonesia and Brunei Darussalam in 2019. And it's a very long career, yeah, Mr. Ambassador. In the European Union, started in 1992-1993 as Associate Administrator, EU-US Education Exchange, and Directorate General for Education and Training, European Commission, Brussels. And I cannot mention all of them because, but Ambassador Piket has been everywhere across the world. Prior to his career in the European Union, Ambassador Piket was an assistant lecturer, English American Department, Radboud University, Nijmegen, the Netherlands, from 1984-1989. And after that, he was appointed as the head of Projects Department, Netherlands Organization for International Cooperation in Education, The Hague, the Netherlands, from 1989 to 1992. And Ambassador Piket holds doctorate in arts from Radboud University, Nijmegen, the Netherlands. And he is also a Fellow of American Studies Department, Yale University, New Haven, USA alumnus of the Fulbright Program, Fellow of the American Council of Learned Societies. Ambassador Piket speaks English, French, German, and Dutch. Sprechen Sie Deutsch? Yeah. All right, so without any further ado, we will have a 30 minutes for the lecture, and we'll be continuing with the Q&A sessions. And please pay attention, there will be quiz in the end. So for those who can answer, I can see exciting faces here. So please pay attention, and for those who can answer, there will be prizes from the European Union. So Mr. Ambassador Piket, the floor is yours.
I hope you will bear with that, and let me start by saying that I will appreciate very, very much the very warm welcome that the Universitas Hasanuddin has given me today, and starting yesterday evening, in fact, when the rector was still traveling, and we always received so warmly by your senior staff, and that has continued today, and I appreciate tremendously this opportunity to speak to you here, students, also some faculty, about the European Union in an informal way, and we can certainly have some discussion later on. Maybe I have a slideshow. Maybe start it, and policies and future challenges is what I'll be talking about. And next slide, please. With these 6 topics covered. So prepare yourself, and the moderator has announced some questions that she will be asking, and that's I hope you will be able to answer. Now first, what is the European Union? Next slide, please. 27 member states, used to be 28 indeed. 4 million square kilometers spread out over this the western part of the European continent. with a good 450 million inhabitants. Indonesia is 280 million. ASEAN is 600 million, so we are somewhere in between Indonesia and the whole of ASEAN. Our GDP is high, of course. We are a group of rich countries, some very rich, some moderately rich. The 1/6 of global GDP and roughly the third in ranking largest economy, if you take the EU as a whole, in the world. A big trading partner, trading power, some people say, and that is partly because of the economic weight we have in the world, but also because, of course, the EU operates a single market between the 27 member states, and that means that we are champions of harmonization of rules for regulating the economy. And many other countries outside the EU have discovered that these rules are, on the whole, common sense and are very usable also by them, even if they are not member states of the EU. Next slide, please. Or should I do that? Oh. One back, please. Yeah. Our motto rings a bell in Indonesia, this motto, I guess. Exactly the same. 27 countries, many more languages. Of course, we have 24 official languages, by which we mean these are languages that the European Union uses in its day-to-day work, in legislative documents, in the European Parliament, in the meetings of member states, and so on. So that's very important for us as a means of for ensuring the equality between countries that are our members, and also the transparency of our decision making. Different cultures, traditions, and languages. We have existed, the EU, since roughly 1950, some say 1957. So we are now 70 years old, and you would say that with all the integration that the European Union has seen between these member states, the differences between member states would disappear, the cultures would change, the languages would disappear, etc. It's not the case. We continue to see this diversity of cultures and traditions between our member states, and that is also something we wish to preserve. While probably the biggest single achievement of the EU in its history is this EU single market, so a space between all the member states where products can move freely, where people can move freely and establish themselves, find a job, capital can move freely, and services can move freely, so that has, of course, been a tremendous boost for our economic growth and for our economic standing in the world. And it's also at the individual level a tremendous aspect of liberty, of freedom for people to develop themselves and in the way they wish to do and they think best. And one example is, of course, education, where students from one member state can enroll under the same conditions in university in a different member state, and that receiving member state has to welcome this student as if that student is a national of the host country. So it's a tremendous achievement on the whole that we benefit from day in, day out. Next, please. maybe not everybody knows, but in 2012, the EU received the Nobel Peace Prize. It's a bit odd, maybe. Why would an entity like the European Union receive such a prize instead of on the same way as Nelson Mandela, for instance, got the prize? And I think it's the main reason was that the EU had by that time managed to peacefully tear down the walls, the Iron Curtain that used to be a dividing line on the European continent. You remember, some of you maybe, that there was this Iron Curtain where we had the Soviet bloc and the democratic free bloc of countries. And in the year 1989, the Iron Curtain fell. And look up at Google the images of how the Berlin Wall, for instance, was broken down, and people from the communist East Berlin moved into, for the first time in their lives, sometimes into the democratic West Berlin. And the peaceful reunification of Europe is earned us this Nobel Peace Prize. We are a group of countries. We are not a country ourselves. We are not a sovereign state in the strict sense of the word, like Indonesia is. But we still have many of the characteristics of a country. We have a flag. You know it, over there. We have an anthem, the Ode to Joy, taken from Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. And we have a national day called Europe Day, and that is on the 9th of May. And the 9th of May, I can tell you, last month only, it was a very, very nice reception down in Jakarta. Next slide, please. Is about a very recent initiative that the European Union took. We have a very complex world at present. We have a somewhat fragmented world at present. And we, as the European Union, do not want to see the world fragment further, and we want instead to promote cooperation and links, lasting links between us and friendly nations wherever you are. And Indonesia is very much part of that. And to do that, we have the European Union, especially the president of the European Commission, our executive branch. Her name is Ursula von der Leyen. You may have heard or seen her. She launched this global gateway, which is an initiative for connectivity, for making links between people, between economies, between digital economies in Europe and elsewhere. And all of that under also the respect of the principles of sustainability. Next, please. And one example of such a project under the Global Gateway is the project that we are supporting in this very university, Hasanuddin University, and also in the university in Malang, University of Brawijaya. Thank you. And the projects that we set up when COVID was still raging in Europe, in Indonesia too, and we decided to contribute to the response capacity of universities, university hospitals in Indonesia in these two projects, and we're very happy to be working with Universitas Hasanuddin in this connection. I should stress this is a project that we do together with Germany, with the German Development Bank, KfW, and who have signed a loan for this, and the European Union contributes a grant to this project. And if all goes according to what we know now, by the middle of next year, this new part of the university teaching hospital should be up and running. Next slide, please. A word about sustainability, about the climate. Next one, please. And that the climate is the European policy, is the European Green Deal, and it's a comprehensive effort to totally transform our economy, our societies, and for one very simple reason, and that is that we must fight the global warming. And I don't know how you look upon the problem of global warming, but I think many people will say we knew about it intellectually. We knew that the science had demonstrated that the global temperature is rising, has been rising since the Industrial Revolution, that the seas are getting warmer, that the Arctic ice is melting, the glaciers, etc., etc. But we never really accepted, I think, in Europe, that this was happening right now, not in their neighbors' territory, but on our own countries, in our own continent. And we see tremendous problems in many countries in Europe with drought, the absence of rain for months on end, at a time when we need rain for our crops, for the wheat and for the vegetables. So this affects food security, and if it affects food security, it affects prices. And you can easily see the chain of all sorts of negative effects for ourselves, but also for the world economy. Now, we've got to stop that phenomenon as fast as we can. And as Europe, we have decided to try and do that under this EU Green Deal. I'm not going into this beautiful pictorial presentation in detail. But just to demonstrate that this is not something that is just on this or that subsector of the economy, but this is about the whole of the economy. This is about the way we live and the way we earn our daily bread. Important to stress, of course, that okay, Europe is leading on this, maybe it's fine, and we are proud of it, and we will continue to do so. We are ambitious, and we will be the first, if all goes according to plan, the first continent to achieve carbon neutrality by the year 2050, 50. But at the end of the day, we produce only 8% of global carbon dioxide. So the other 92% is produced elsewhere. What does that mean? It means that we have to work together with partners across the globe. The developed economies, the developing economies, but especially, I think, with the emerging and fast-growing economies in Southeast and East Asia and Indonesia is one of them. Not easy, of course, because often you have the debate about growth versus climate, growth versus sustainability, and what we, next slide please, what we emphasize for ourselves but also for our partners is that growth and sustainability and climate action can go hand in hand. In fact, they must go hand in hand, because at the end of the day we need to earn our living, and we need to keep the economies going. But what we have learned in Europe is that cutting carbon dioxide emissions and producing economic growth, producing job, those two can go in parallel. Here is our President, Ursula von der Leyen. Has everybody seen her face before? Yes? Good. Next slide, please. In fact, I've sort of covered this one already, so we can move on to the next one and simply also ask the question, yes, that is nice, the European Union does its thing, and the government of Indonesia will do the necessary, and we can sit back and relax and wait for things to happen. And that, of course, is something that is not true, that fighting climate change and maintaining, keeping the world livable concerns each and every one of us, students, lecturers, rectors, ambassadors, and by very, very simple things that you can change in your daily lives, things that aren't difficult at all. It's just a matter of habit in many respects, and about marginal changes in what you do and how you do your daily work and your daily leisure life. So I would very much hope that, and I assume that you think about these matters for yourselves as well, and discuss these with your fellow students here at university. Because at the end of the day, that's the reason why I emphasize this so much. It's students, young people, the young generation that are the main drivers behind it. And I quote one very famous politician of Indonesia, and that is Pak Luhut, the minister. Everybody know? I've heard him say the same sort of story twice, and so he's repeating it himself a little bit maybe, but it's a good story. And he says that my granddaughter, she studies in a foreign country. She rang me one day and she told me very clearly, "Granddad, bear in mind, make sure that whatever you do is good for our climate. I will not accept if it doesn't, because it's my life and my generation that is at stake." Next slide, please. A couple of the challenges, very, very briefly, and one is, of course, the economic recovery. Post-COVID, we were on a very good growth track again, like Indonesia, as a matter of fact. Then Russia's invasion of Ukraine happened, or the war happened, and which we took a tremendous beating as a result, mostly because of war destabilizes the economy in general. Secondly, Russia turned off the gas tap to the European Union, and we had a gas crisis briefly. And thirdly, because the food supplies from Russia and Ukraine were heavily destabilized as a result of the war as well. So now the gas crisis is over. We have done a lot to mitigate that problem simply by doing three things. One, buy gas elsewhere, and it was in a way surprising how quickly that could be achieved. Secondly, use less gas, and believe it or not, but in the space of 6 or 8 weeks, the gas consumption of the European industry and the household went down by almost 25%. Now, that's massive, and so that was an important thing. And the third is that, and that's more medium to long term, but an acceleration of the rollout of renewable energy throughout the European Union. Solar, on your roof, or the solar plants that you know, water, the heating, thermal pumps, and so on, and particularly the wind power, especially in the cold and windy northwest of Europe. Wind power is, of course, very important. Migration and asylum, I mentioned that because this is also very topical, very sensitive topic, area of policy. You will have read about the horrible accidents that happen in the Mediterranean, involving the deaths of tens and tens of people who take desperate people who flee their home countries in northern Africa or sub-Saharan Africa in order to get to a safe place of Europe and die on the way. Tremendous crisis, of course, in several respects, but particularly also for the countries in the south of Europe, Italy, Greece, especially Spain as well, where most of the migrants land. And of course we want to receive refugees and make them a home and give them safety. At the same time, this is a tremendous burden. And and that, in other words, we need to share that burden amongst the EU member states, and that, which is not an easy discussion. You can easily imagine that in the ASEAN context, for instance. But just 10 days ago, the member states agreed a formula to do exactly that, burden sharing amongst us, whether it is through receiving migrants or through paying to other countries that do receive them.
10 minutes left, Your Excellencies.
Yes. Climate change I can skip, I've already done it, but just mention the aspect of the digital transformation that is linked to it. Of course, we all know that digitalization of some of the economic activities can lead to CO2 cuts and efficiency improvement, and so that is something that is very much on our agenda too, and on which we hope to partner also with Indonesia. Now, the next topic is radically different between us and a country like Indonesia. Your birth rate is more than 2%. Every year you grow with hundreds of thousands of new citizens that feed into your education system, into your economy. We have the opposite problem. We are getting grayer and grayer. Look at me, and of course we have therefore a totally different situation on our labor market. We lack labor in a number of respects, and we need to import it. So that is a major reality that we have to face and to do something about. Last point is there. It's the eternal point of the internal management, the internal decision making, and the internal reforms. With 27 countries who are changing all the time, in a world that is changing all the time. Of course, you are each and every time confronted with the question, are we giving the answers, the responses to the problems that face our citizens? Are we giving the answers to the problem that faces the Union as a whole? And in that connection, of course, the debate about how we do our work, how much of it we do or should be doing, should the EU step back or should it do more in the economy, in security, in social policy, etc. That debate is eternal, and in fact it would be a bad sign if the debate were to stop. So this is something that continues to also reach the headlines even here in Indonesia. Now, a couple of things about cooperation. Next slide, please. And and it's about education, something that interests you, and we have already seen here 3 alumni of the Erasmus program, 3 women students. So guys, come on, where are you? But well done, fantastic, and every year we give these scholarships to Indonesia, 900 of them more or less, good number I think, so I'm satisfied and about that. Am I happy? No, I'm not happy, because I know, and the rector would agree, that demand is much higher, and the possibility and the potential is much higher. And the only thing that keeps us back is, of course, cash. Exchanges cost money, this is not a loan that we can grant. This is something that has to be paid in cash by the ministries, by the EU, by the parents, etc. So, and that is, but this is what we will always continue to do with Indonesia, for Indonesia. Let me say one very good thing about your Ministry of Education, which 2 years or 3 years ago, we'd had discussions with them, and they agreed to set up a matching scheme paid by the Indonesian budget for the European Union's Erasmus budget. In other words, we have doubled the number of grantees of scholarships for study in Europe. Something that I hope we can improve and do better on. That is also to get European students to study here. I think that there's still a little bit of a problem of lack of information about knowledge of Indonesia. What is this country, and how do people live there, and what are the education institutions like? So we have to work on information provision. And secondly, of course, in Indonesia, it is a little bit more distant from Europe than some other countries. So we have to literally go that extra mile. Next slide, please. Just mention that a couple of 2014, that I can't believe. Well, I thought it was 2017, but probably I'm wrong. In order to bring Europe close to you and you closer to Europe, we organized here at Hasanuddin University this higher education fair with European universities coming over and presenting themselves and to allow you to make choices about where you would like to study. And I will be very brief about the next slides. And that is to say that we're doing similar things in the coming couple of weeks in September, an ASEAN-EU virtual online higher education fair. And so look, it's on our website. And next slide, please. And then we will be holding 3 in-person fairs in 3 venues in Java Islands in this case. So I do hope you'll be able to step over for that one. Last slide, where you can get more information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Piket. I'm sorry, please allow me to wait until the Azan stops. All right. Thank you once again, Ambassador Piket. So we are now in our Q&A session. Is there any question from the floor? Ladies over there and gentlemen phone and also student over here. Okay, for the first three questions, would you like to listen to all of the question and answer later? Three is enough. So you listen first and then you can answer. Okay, please, the ladies first.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ambassador. Thank you for the amazing opportunity. I am an international relations student, batch 2019. I'm currently doing research on my thesis about Denmark policy to exempt jewelry law that you briefly explained about the challenges about migration and asylum. And the policy is to exempt jewelry law exclusively for Ukrainian refugees in regard with European Union Temporary Protection Directive, TPD. And my question would be, what is European Union take on this particular policy that has a different implementation on refugees, especially for the Ukrainian refugees and also for the refugees from the Middle East, and that how it's different based on European Union emphasize on common European asylum system that focus on equality regarding with refugees and immigrants. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The next question from our Vice Rector.
Yeah, thank you, moderator. Hello, Munir. Goedemiddag. Yeah, I am Ruslin. Now is the supporting staff from the rector. I am a vice rector for the academic and student affairs. Now is, you just mentioned, according to the big crisis now in European, according to the war initiated with Ukraine. Ukraine is one of the members of European Union. Now, what is your policy or what is the strategy to stop it, the war now? Because I think it's very big, big problem in European Union now. You just mentioned one of is the according to the crisis of the gas, and the other thing I think is also the same. That is the first question. And the second is, you just mentioned from your presentation, we saw for the Erasmus scholarship, you already give more than 900 scholarship for the every years for the Indonesian students. But I think still small numbers from the alumni of Hasanuddin University, and also I think some people from the east part of Indonesia. So there is a policy according to give like special scheme for them or special opportunities to get some scholarship. And for the Erasmus scholarship, I saw only a few of for the master students. So now I think we need also for the PhD students. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Ruslin. And the last one.
All right. Thank you, the Mr. Ambassador of the European Union. My name is Muhammad Nurfaiz Fahmi, and I'm the International Relations student, batch 2022. I want to ask questions regarding economic recovery that all countries that affected by war of invasion of Russia on Ukraine, and before that, this is also related to the Model United Nations conference that I joined for tomorrow. And all right. Anyway, thank you for the opportunity. Okay, at a different time, I also joined a webinar with the guest of the ambassador of Russia to Indonesia, which is Miss Ludmila, and I asked a question to her: what kind of condemnation that Western countries gave to Russia? And then I want to know: isn't there another options than condemn Russia to make global economy stable as it was? Thank you, Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you very much for all of the questions, Mr. Ambassador Piket. You may answer. This is very tough question, yeah, regarding the security issues. I know it's not easy to answer, but please go.
Well, thanks very much indeed, and good questions indeed. Each of these could be the topic of a full seminar. But a few reactions and on the migration policy and the immigration in particular, and Denmark's position on this. And you mentioned Denmark, but there are, amongst the 27 countries, there are some divergences amongst more countries than just Denmark. So it would, I think, not be good or not right to single out just Denmark. But I know why you're doing it, because you're doing your research in Denmark. So carry on doing it. But societies, of course, are what they are, and as I'm Dutch by origin, I've lived more than half of my life abroad, so I'm not a typical example anymore, I think. But everybody has a certain concept of what a Dutch society looks like and what it is, and how you handle that in terms of public policy, in terms of your good neighborly relations and everything. And we have seen, of course, in Europe, especially in the past 2 decades, let's say, a tremendous influx of migrants not from countries next door, but from far away, from totally different backgrounds, cultures, histories, levels of development, economic development, income, in other words. So if that happens, and particularly, of course, when the war in Syria, 2 million Syrians all of a sudden knocked on our door. 2 million people, even on the big European Union, that has a major impact. And that translates into political attitudes and populism and all of these things, xenophobia. And so what I mean to say is that we should accept this, that these feelings and these moods and these political shifts happen, but that at the same time you not forget about the fundamental values that the European Union, like other UN members, have about taking care of the weakest on earth, and that's a moral duty that we have, whether it's a religious duty, a political, or a human duty that you have. And so, in EU, I think at the end of the day, it's a question about how do we share that burden, insofar as it is a burden, of course. How do you share that work amongst them? And there we haven't yet found the best solution, I think. We're moving forward each and every time, but whenever we think we have something, then there's another crisis happening somewhere, and we face new trouble in managing this crisis. So I'm not saying that we have come to the conclusion and that now the problem is solved. No, but this will continue. for as long as instability continues. If you look at Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, if you see there all these hotspots of wars, civil strife, famine, drought, all of that, it will mean that for years to come there will people want to travel to places where they think the life is better, and where and of course the EU is a good place, and so this will continue, and yeah, we will continue to have to respond to that in a humane manner. Vice Rector Roslin, a question about Russia. Russia's war against Ukraine, just to recall that Ukraine is not yet a member of the EU. They have been accepted as a candidate, but not yet accepted, not yet joined. You know, what to do? That's how you put the question, and I think that if we had the answer, then we might have solved it. But fundamentally, of course, this is a situation where there is one country that has aggressed a second country, that has broken all the UN rules about sovereignty and territorial integrity and the rule-based world order and so on. A country that has done that, even though it is in the Security Council, permanent member, deciding about these matters, you know, with what entitlement, what legitimacy, is of course gone. But so for us, the solution we want peace. Ukraine wants peace. The solution has to be in line with the UN Charter, with the sovereignty notions, and it must respect the international agreements on Ukraine's borders, agreements signed also by Russia, by the way, in the early 1990s, and so in other words, it translates into a withdrawal from Ukrainian soil by Russian troops. There's no two ways about it, and there's no way for the EU that we would ask Ukraine to accept such a continuing occupation. Well, there's no political basis for such a request to Ukraine. So what we instead are doing is supporting Ukraine financially with balance of payments, for paying the salaries of the civil servants, and you know, the pensions and all of that. Humanitarian aid, a lot for the refugees, whether they are in Ukraine itself or whether they have moved to countries like Poland or the Czech Republic and Slovakia and Hungary or elsewhere, Germany also many. And lastly, military aid, and that's something we have never done before up to now. And so it's not what we set out to do, but the force of circumstance pushed us into this. And we will continue to do that, support Ukraine as long as it's needed. Because that's our conviction, that a peace that would be based on arm twisting by one party against a weaker party will not be a peace. That will continue to be a source of instability, of strife, and the beginning of a future conflict. So that is for now where we stand, and we very much. Our policy is very much aimed at diminishing Russia's capability to wage a war with all our sanctions, not on agriculture, by the way. Russia continues to say spreading disinformation about that. Now, disinformation is a fancy word for lies. We are not sanctioning agriculture or fertilizers, on the contrary, and we are supporting the food supply lanes from Ukraine to the developing countries in Africa, especially. We have set up similar lanes, solidarity lanes, we call them, over the road through the EU. And but meanwhile, we sanction as much as we can the Russian finance and technology supplies, etc. The second question about the scholarships and the numbers in East Indonesia. Thanks for raising it. I do think that this, in the first instance, this is a question for the Indonesian government, who, as I mentioned, have set up this matching program next to our Erasmus, and but it's a good question, and I do think that certainly after being here, that we should come back to Hasanuddin University with another higher education fair to bring European universities to your university and try and do a little bit of matchmaking. I think that is certainly totally in our powers to do so, and we will. Okay, Mohammed, where are you? Yeah, over there. I think I've partly answered your question as well already, I believe, when I replied to Vice Rector Roslin's question. The global economy, impact of the war, yes, sadly, post-COVID, we had not counted on this, and we had not asked for this. So I think we have done our utmost as the European Union to try and soften the blow for the developing countries, especially in Africa, but by extension also in Asia, with the solidarity lanes for food and fertilizer exports, and similar, the Turkish UN deal for export. We have paid massive money to the weakest sub-Saharan African countries, close to 1 billion euros of humanitarian aid and food security. It's massive. Is it enough? No. For as long as the war continues, the risk for food insecurity continues. The prices will be unstable, and expensive food has a direct impact on especially the low income groups, and that is a very, very sad reality.
I'm sorry, may I add more question regarding my question before? No more?
Yeah, I'm sorry, we are running out of time, because
right.
I think Ambassador have to leave at 4.
Oh my God. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador.
Yeah, I know it's very tempting discussion. I also have to hold myself not to ask questions, because I have a similar issue with the first question, that because my master topic is relating to climate refugees, Your Excellency. Climate refugees? Yep, the one that you mentioned about the women in Africa and things about that natures is gonna grow up in the near future. So anyway, thank you very much for all the questions and your answer as well. Now we are are you ready for quizzes? Have you taken some notes? I don't No rector. Rector is not allowed to join the competition. But I have to be fair, because sometimes this side I cannot see, so I have to move a bit. just to be more fair, just in case some people will raise hand over here, I cannot see.
I can help you. I see from the side.
Yeah. This is like playing basketball, yeah? You have to be very, got good, very wide views. So first questions, this is very easy. Ready? We got five, yeah? How many member states are there? I will count, 1, 2, 3, yeah? I will count. I think alumni is not allowed as well. Alumni. 1, 2, 3. We have come from, I think I will try this side because we have got answers. Yeah, but I think they know the questions. Do you know the question?
It's like how many states that the European Union
Yep.
countries.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's 27, and one of them is Sweden because I attend some event on Embassy of Sweden last month
Oh,
in Jakarta. Yeah.
is it quite cheating? Yeah? It's okay. Thank you very much. Is that correct? Yeah, correct. Okay. Now, a bit harder. It's quite a long question. Listen carefully. The EU provides scholarships for master's degree called Erasmus Mundus Joint Masters or EMJM. With EMJM, students will be able to study in at least 2 different countries in Europe. The question is, what do you think the question is? How many cows living in, no. The question is, what does mundus means? Mundus, yeah, the brown guy.
Okay,
the
thank you.
color.
So mundus means, it's a Latin word that means world.
Yep. Okay, good job. What's your name?
Mario,
Mario from?
international relations.
And sorry, the first one. What's your name?
My name is Indra. I'm from electrical engineering.
Electrical engineering. Yep. Yeah, scholarship. Okay, 2 questions have been answered. The third one. This is easy. Yeah, ready. Very easy. What date is Europe Day? Nggak bisa ini. What date is Europe Day?
9 May.
The 9th of May.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Your name?
Shahidul Islam, international student from Bangladesh.
Oh, yeah, from Bangladesh. Thank you, Shah Islam. Okay. Yeah, this is also quite harder question. Please check your notes if you have taken some notes. Quite long answers. Mention 3 key sectors under global gateway. The lady in blue.
Just 3?
Yeah, 3. Yeah. You can have more. Complete.
It's education and research, health and transport.
Yeah, all right. Your name?
I'm Dia from major of forestry.
Forestry. All right. Okay, thank you very much. And okay, the last one. The last one to close our session today. Who is the lucky one? What is the EU motto? I think she got an answer. Ya, Ibu, Mbak, kita, ya. Bahas. What is the EU motto?
The EU motto is United in Diversity.
Yay! Congratulations to all of you. We will have yeah, the last one, yeah, after we close, then you can come and we will take pictures and you will receive the prize to all the lucky ones. Okay, before I close our session today, let's listen to closing statement from our rector.
A very short one. First of all, I wish we have more time because this is a really nice presentation, interactions. I would like to thank again the ambassador, His Excellency, and also for my students. They are so good, and I would like to actually also present two presents for the first two students who asked question. And the present would be, you are welcome to become Universitas Hasanuddin a volunteer at Directorate if you wanted to. Yeah. So please, if you wanted to, but please tell your student later on that please, if you have this kind of public lecture, then you need to join because they're always a good presents. Now we give you a present if you wanted to. Yeah. No, not the vice rector. Oh well, I also give a present for the vice rector, but not to be announced. Not to be announced. More work. For ambassador, I think just very for you to know, and also for my college, our university actually among only a few universities who committed to become carbon neutral campus by 2040, and give applause for that, because Indonesia government is a bit reluctant because they thought by having this carbon natural development, then we will really slow down the economy. I think this is the challenge for university to be able to give a showcase. The university can be the good example toward really climate change, what we call ambassador, and we hope that science, technology, and innovation will create a new kind of paradigm for the campus in the future, that we are really making it a carbon neutral campus. For ambassador, please deliver this message to all the European Union countries that there is one university in East Indonesia who brave enough to stand up that we are going toward carbon neutral campus. Of course, we are welcome all the collaboration. We have a Center for Climate Change, and I do hope all my college students become a volunteer for making our campus a good example. I think that's all. Thanks again for inspiring us today.
Thank you very much, Pak Rector. Now we officially close the session, and also I think this is the time for all of the winner to come up to the stage and receive prizes from Ambassador Piket. Please come forward.
Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We are now in the end of agenda session. I would like to invite in the front of the stage Hasanuddin University Rector, Professor Dr. Insinyur Jamaluddin Jompa, MSc, and His Excellency Dr. Vincent Piket as Ambassador of the European Union to Indonesia and Brunei Darussalam to make a gift exchange between Hasanuddin University and European Union delegation to Indonesia and Brunei Darussalam. Okay. So we have okay, and I would like to invite the alumni of Erasmus to give a gift exchange from Mr. Embassy. And also a student who asked a question, I would like to invite in the front of the stage. A special gift from Director Hasanuddin University. Many? Okay, and I would like to invite all participants to take a photo in the front. So everything, yeah. So every official, staff, guest, and student from Hasanuddin University to make a photos together. I will count it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Cheers. The freestyle one more time. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Thank you for the participation today and have a great day. I'm signing off. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.